Okay, so picture this. You're in like a really peaceful mountain temple, right? In Japan.
Ah, I can practically smell the incense.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just like, this quiet reverence everywhere. And you look up and it's not a statue. It's a real preserved human body,
Like a monk. Yeah.
frozen in time. They call them living Buddhas.
It's an image that really sticks with you, huh?
Yeah.
These aren't just mummies, they're Sokushinbutsu. Monks who, they mummified themselves. Like, it was the ultimate act of spiritual devotion.
Okay, self-mummification. That's intense.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just about preserving the body, was it?
No.
These monks, I read that they believed they were entering like a super deep meditative state, transcending death, to help start, like, usher in a new Buddhist era.
Right, like they're waiting,
They're on standby.
Yeah, and that's why people still go to the temples.
For healing, for blessings.
Guidance, yeah. They're not seen as gone, just existing on a different plane.
So how did they do it? The mummification? I mean, we're talking centuries ago.
It took years of incredible discipline. First, the diet, slowly cutting out everything, grains, and then eventually just bark, roots, pine needles.
Pine needles.
Anything to dehydrate the body, reduce
Yeah.
fat, make it harder to decay.
Wow, that's commitment.
Yeah, but it was all about purification, right? Pushing the body to reach a higher state.
To transcend the physical.
Exactly, a spiritual transformation.
So what about the end? Like, how did it actually,
Oh, they would drink this tea, right? Poisonous, lacquer tree sap, a natural preservative.
Uh-huh.
Then they'd be sealed in a stone tomb in the lotus position, just a bamboo tube for air.
So they were buried alive, meditating until
They stopped ringing the bell they had, to signal they were alive. Then the tubes removed, the tomb sealed for 3 years. And if the body mummified, they'd be declared a Sokushinbutsu, proof of their mastery.
That's that's both incredible and a little, unsettling. It makes you wonder what pushed them to go so far. Was it all spiritual? Or were there other things, like historical events?
Well, there's evidence for both. One monk, Shinyokai Shonin, he chose this during a famine, the Tenmei famine, 1780s. Devastating.
Wow. Imagine the desperation, all that suffering.
Yeah.
Was it like his way of being one less mouth to feed?
Yeah.
A final act of compassion? Praying for the ones left behind.
It's a really powerful idea, right? That even in something so personal, so spiritual, there's this connection to the community, to the problems of their time.
Like their bodies, preserves all these years, become windows into history, into what it meant to be human back then.
Yeah.
But I was reading that some people think not all Sokushinbutsu are authentic, right? Some monks think they were forgeries, like just bodies that were manipulated, not real self-mummified ones.
Yeah, there are a lot of different beliefs, even within these traditions. Like Dainichibu Temple, they are adamant that theirs are authentic. They point to the skin tone, light, and the natural pose as proof, compared to others that are darker. Yeah, like maybe something was done after death.
So it's like each temple has its own definition of authenticity?
Pretty much, yeah.
What about the temples with the darker ones? What do they say?
Well, Trenji Temple, they argue that it's more about the monks' intentions and their impact on people, Not the physical details. It's about the spiritual legacy, the faith.
Yeah.
Not just the process.
That's an interesting point. The power of belief,
Yeah.
no matter what the body looks like. And you hear stories today about people who credit, like, healings or even business success to these figures.
Yeah.
So the belief is real, powerful, no matter what.
It is. You've touched on something really important here. We all need connection, something beyond our physical limits. And these Sokushinbutsu, their sacrifice, their continued presence, they offer that inspiration.
It's like they're these folk heroes.
In a way, yeah.
A mix of history, spirituality, and, I don't know, a little bit of magic.
It is fascinating how they still resonate with people. After all these years, they're in manga, documentaries. There's even a temple passport to see them all.
Really?
Yeah. And I think the modern world, with all our anxieties, we're drawn to this idea of discipline, of spiritual pursuit.
Makes sense. Maybe we're looking for something like that too.
Maybe. It's not just the modern world, though, is it? These practices, they go way back. We were talking about the Sokushinbutsu, but there's this whole other group of mummies in Japanese history, too. The Ōshū Fujiwara clan.
Right, the ruling clan.
Yeah.
Super powerful. And their mummies were found in that Golden Hall, Konjiki-do. It's a UNESCO site.
Yeah, World Heritage Site. It's amazing. This hall, all gold leaf and intricate lacquer work, and inside, the mummified rulers.
This whole different kind of immortality, isn't it?
Totally. Not about, transcending rebirth, like the Sokushinbutsu. It's about legacy, power, influence, even in the afterlife.
So they weren't trying to reach Buddhahood. They were trying to solidify their earthly power. Did they go through the same intense process as the monks, the self-mummification?
It doesn't seem like it. The specifics are a bit murky, lost to history, but it was probably a mix of things. Evisceration, drying the body out, preservatives, more like traditional Egyptian mummies. Although how they did it exactly in Japan, that's still a bit of a mystery.
Historical puzzle.
Yeah.
So besides, their motivations, what can we learn from these mummies? Can their bodies tell us about their lives, their health?
Oh, absolutely. Modern science can give us a peek into their past. X-rays, CT scans, we've learned a lot.
Like what?
Well, for example, Fujiwara no Kiyohira, he was the dynasty's founder. He had bone atrophy, which could mean hemiplegia, maybe from a stroke.
So they can diagnose ancient ailments? That's
Well,
incredible.
and then there's Fujiwara no Hitira. His mummy showed signs of Dido-ichi, diffuse idiopathic skeletal hyperostosis. It's basically bony overgrowths on the spine. Probably made him really stiff. But the interesting thing is, it's often linked to a long life.
So he lived long, but not comfortably.
Maybe, yeah.
And it's not just the big stuff, right?
No.
You can see the smaller details of their lives, too.
Absolutely. Broken bones, healed fractures, even signs of malnutrition. They even found things buried with some of them. Coins, jewelry, even human teeth.
Human teeth. Okay, that's a little creepy.
Yeah, but it shows they were real people with lives, experiences, beliefs, their stories. Even if we only have fragments, they still speak to us across the centuries.
It's not just individual stories either, right? These mummies teach us about the whole society and culture back then.
Exactly. We can learn about their diets, their medicine, even their beliefs about the afterlife, all from their physical remains. They become like ambassadors from the past, a link to a lost world.
It's like time travel, a real visceral connection to the past. So we've talked about the Sokushinbutsu, the Ōshū Fujiwara. Were there other mummies in Japan? Other practices, maybe not as famous?
Oh, definitely. The Sokushinbutsu and the Ōshū Fujiwara are the most well-known, but they're not the whole picture. There are records of other mummified monks in other areas, not necessarily from that same self-mummification process. Some might have been preserved by accident, the environment or how they were buried.
So it's more complicated than we think.
Yeah.
There could be other stories out there just waiting to be found.
Exactly. That's why we need to keep researching, keep exploring. Every new discovery changes our understanding of Japanese history, their spirituality, their culture. It reminds us that the past is never really settled. We're always reinterpreting it, looking at it in new ways as we learn more.
It's like a giant puzzle. Every new piece changes the picture.
I like that, yeah.
But with all this focus on the science, the history, the how, are we missing something bigger? The ethical side of it all. Intentionally pushing your body to that extreme, even dying for it. That raises some questions, doesn't it?
It definitely does. And people have been debating these questions for centuries, both within these spiritual traditions and outside of them. On the one hand, there's the idea of individual choice. The right to choose your path, even if it means self-sacrifice. But then there's the risk of people being taken advantage of. Coercion, pressure, especially in a religious structure.
It's tough, right?
No.
No easy answers.
Yeah.
And it gets even more complex when you think about different cultures. What one culture thinks is extreme, another might see as an act of devotion.
Absolutely. That's why understanding their belief system is so important, the historical context, the individual's reasons. We can't judge them by our own values. We have to try to see it through their eyes.
See the world through their eyes, even if it's different from our own experience.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most valuable things about these practices. They make us expand our perspective, challenge our ideas about life, death, the human experience.
It reminds us that history isn't just dates and facts. It's people's stories. And their beliefs, their motivations, their dreams, they're all woven together. And even the stories that seem strange or uncomfortable, they can teach us something about ourselves, about what it means to be human.
You're right. It's about recognizing that we're all connected across time, across cultures, across all our differences. And when we see that connection, we understand not just the past, but ourselves and our place in this whole human story.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? About how we're all connected, even to people from such different times and places.
It really does.
But with all this talk about connection, I feel like we haven't really addressed, well, the elephant in the room,
What do you mean?
the ethical side of it all. I mean, Choosing to put your body through that, even to die, got to raise some questions.
Oh, absolutely. It has. For centuries, actually. People have been debating this, both within these spiritual traditions and outside of them. It's a tricky one, right? You have the argument for individual choice, the freedom to decide your own path, even if it means self-sacrifice.
Right, but then there's the other side.
Yeah, the potential for, I guess, exploitation, coercion, pressure, especially in a religious setting.
And it's not like we could just impose our own values, right?
Exactly. It's about trying to understand their world, their belief system, the historical context, what led individuals to make these choices.
We have to be open-minded.
Definitely. See it from their perspective, even if it's hard to grasp coming from our modern viewpoint. And honestly, I think that's what's so powerful about these stories. They force us to confront our own assumptions about life, about death, about what it means to be human.
They challenge us, in a way.
They do.
It's a reminder that history isn't just some dry subject, you know. It's people, real people, with their own hopes and struggles and beliefs. Even the stories that seem strange or a little scary, they still have something to teach us.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that shared humanity across time, across cultures, across all our differences. And in recognizing that, I think we can learn a lot, not just about the past, but about ourselves too, and where we fit in this whole human story. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. It really is. And it makes you realize all this, it's not just about mummies. It's about us. And it's about those big questions, you know, the ones we've been grappling with for centuries. The meaning of life, the nature of death, what it means to leave a mark on the world. These ancient stories, they offer a different perspective, a different way of looking at things. And even though this conversation's ending, the questions, they stay with you.
They do. It's like a spark, you know? It gets you thinking, keeps you exploring.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe these whispers from the past, they can help guide us, challenge us, inspire us as we try to figure out our own place in the world.
I think so. I really do.
Yeah.